Hello, everyone. Today is August 27 of August 2025. This is the Cluster API Office Hour meeting. Before starting with our agenda, usual reminder that we abide to CNCF Code of Conduct. So let's get started with our agenda. So as usual, first of all, I invite everyone to add their name to the attendee list. So we keep track of which is attended. Then, as usual, we at the beginning of the meeting we give some time to people attending for the first time to introduce themselves if they want. So if you want to speak up, please use the raise hand feature and say hi to everyone. Okie dokie, I don't see hand raised. So let's keep going. Open proposal readouts. So we have two open proposal, propagate tains and chain upgrade. Is there Nolan that want to speak about this proposal?
I don't think Noland is here today or right now.
Okay. Yeah, I still
Yeah,
have
I can
to.
I can say a few words. Nolan is not here, but I think this is something we are actively interested in keep working on. So if you are interested in this, if you are interested in reading it, if you're interested in reviewing it, feedback is welcome. And yeah, looking forward to see this move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Damiano, for stepping in. Yeah, I still have to review it. I'm just catching up after release and some time off. Okay, next up is chain the upgrade proposal. So we discussed this a couple of times in recent office hours. This proposal is mostly done. It is now LGTM approved. If it is a long time that there are no feedback. So if there are no objection, I'm going to merge it by the end of the week. Okie dokie. So I saw someone adding this document. I think it is Stefan.
Sorry, I have something for state proposals. So I think
Yeah.
Igor first.
Yeah, sorry. I put this in the agenda initially, but I didn't realize there's an open proposal section. Yeah, we raised PR for the independent worker topology version stuff that we were discussing a little while back. So looking for feedback there and reviews and if Rich mentioned that maybe folks prefer to do it in like a Google Doc. So if that's preferred, we can like move it over and then once there's a little bit more consensus, move it back to a PR, but whatever works best for people.
So I'm sorry, I still have to catch up with latest meeting notes. So where I was left before my PTO is that yeah, there are some things that needs to be clarified. So our suggestion was to work in a Google Doc because we need to iterate fast, and this is usually faster than in PR. And we were going to share a document with some working notes about some of the constraints that we are worried about by introducing this change. It was this document shared because I
Yeah.
asked. Okay,
Yeah,
did you have
yeah, it was.
chance to looking into it and
Yeah, we reviewed that and that's part of what we put in this proposal. But yeah, I can convert it to a Google Doc and share that out. Yeah.
Okay. It still remains my general comment that we discussed in the past, that I think that before introducing this layer of complexity, first of all, we have to merge chained upgrade. Then we have to look into how to manage in a better way changes that do not include change to the Kubernetes version. And what was else? And there is also a point about the fact that today, while you are doing an upgrade, so it is a limitation that today, when there is a version skew between a node pool and the control plane, if you are using kubemean, you cannot join basically nodes in node pool with older version. So there are a couple of, let me say, key point in the critical path. But yeah, I will comment on the Google Doc as soon as it's there. We already discussed a part of them, but I will comment on the Google Doc. But
Sure.
yeah, thank you for trying to push this work forward. And okay, let's Stefan.
Yeah, just a comment about state proposals. I think we have this in revival by Joel, etc., etc. I think this comment is roughly 1 or 2 years old.
Yep.
Maybe at least let's drop that part of it.
Yeah, good point. Feature group. Okay. Yeah, feature group. We have to figure it out on the state. I will maybe ping folks later as soon as I have some time. Okay, so let's go back to our agenda. Discussion topic. The first one is on Richard.
Yep. So really, yeah, this is just a call for help or a call to action. Fabrizio's mentioned this quite a few times in previous office hours. I was going to say all hands office hours. Basically, we need help with machine pools and maintaining machine pools and improving them so that they don't fall behind in functionality and quality, etc., and get them to the point of graduation. They've been experimental for years and years and years to this date. So I know machine pools are core to managed Kubernetes or providers that offer managed Kubernetes. So definitely for Kappa and the other providers. So really, we need people to help out. There's a whole bunch of tasks that are outstanding. So Stefan created this list here, and then there's a separate list of things that have come out of, I guess, some of the V1 beta 2 changes. So yeah, really need people to step forward and help with maintaining and making these changes to machine pools, because otherwise they'll just keep falling further and further behind, still be marked as experimental. People still won't want to use them because they're experimental, etc., etc. And there probably comes a point where, they just die effectively. So yeah, really need people's help here. Myself and Matt are trying to help, but it would many hands make light work. So if you're interested, ping in these issues or ping me or Matt or anyone else and get involved. That's my pitch.
Thank you, Richard. Is there someone that want to comment on this? So Mike, please go on.
No, finish your thought, Fabrizio.
I'm personally really worried about what is happening with machine pool. If we look at this issue, it is 1 year old. and basically nothing happened. And this is some of the issue behind of the other open issue about machine pool got closed, but maybe most of them basically not due to PR. They got closed due to because stale. And in 1 year, we only merged one PR from Richard, which created a counter for V1 beta 2. But for instance, we don't have condition for V1 beta 2. So the feature is highly lacking behind. I know that there are people using, but I'm wondering if as a community, we have to give a stronger signal like, hey guys, sorry, there are no maintainers. In the next cycle, in this cycle, if things are not changing, we are going to, instead of move forward in graduation, we're going to move step, to move back. So we are going to move to alpha. So I know I'm not happy about this. I'm really worried, and we have to find a way to get a reaction from the community. Otherwise, we have a problem. Richard?
I think Microsoft before me.
No, I've got like a non sequitur to this line of conversation. So Richard, if you want to respond to Fabrizio, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate the fact that machine pools are core to any provider that offers is managed Kubernetes. The concept of a pool of machines. So if machine pools went away, this would be really problematic for Kappa and its support for EKS, for example. So we would then have to, in the AWS provider, have our own implementation of machine pools with its own functionality, at which then there would be no consistency anywhere for people that use multiple providers. So that would be a big step backwards from I guess me as a consumer of Cappy, but also as a maintainer of providers if this didn't move forward. So I think probably the onus is on the consumers of this. So the providers that really depend on this functionality, they really ideally need to step forward and help maintain it. Otherwise, it would just disappear.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm well aware that this is used and it is important. But as you say, there is something that is not summing up. So people are using, but no one is maintaining it. And basically, me, Stefan, we invested a lot. So you also saw I did in the last cycle, I did PR, to try to keep machine pool attached to the V1 beta 2 effort. But I'm not using them, so I cannot fill in for the other gaps. So yeah, we have this issue. Honestly, I invested a lot in this feature, and it will be really annoying to remove it, and it will be bad for the project. But at the same time, we need a reaction from folks. So I'm putting I throw this idea on the table. I'm not sure if it makes sense or not, but if someone has some idea on how to basically make sure that there is a segue to reach our call to action, please discuss, because it looks like that talking about this problem in this meeting, we already did a couple of times. I hope that this time works, but in the past it was not successful. So, yep.
So yeah, I wanted to add like +1 to what Fabrizio is saying. I think we need to excite the community around this so that we can connect like whatever that user story is to like the engineering that we're doing. But then also I wanted to point out that like the cluster autoscaler story around machine pools is not in a good state either. And so that's kind of a follow-on effect from this where, when machine pool was kind of hot last year, I think there was some efforts to try and include some machine pool support in cluster autoscaler, but I don't think it's been tested very well, and I'm not even sure that it works at this point. So this is kind of an extended problem. If we don't have enough engineers and just users in general to contribute to the development process of the machine pool, then we certainly don't have enough to kind of maintain the cluster autoscaler part of it either. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it is not only the work that need to be done in copy, but the whole story that someone should take care of. Thank you. Lubomir?
Hey, I have a very naive, it's a question slash idea. Can this feature be externalized from core in a separate repository and saying that this is a provider of sorts, and just saying that you can consume it if you want externally? Obviously, it will require an API change for sure, right?
Can I answer to that one?
Yes, Stefan, thank you.
So let's say technically the base machine pool feature is mostly a shim to delegate to provider machine pools, right? And then most of the work is done in provider machine pools. I think the part where it gets tricky to move this out is where we have the integration with everything else in core copy. So we have basically in the cluster class, we have like a huge section for machine deployments. We also have a huge section for machine pools on how to configure them. The same in cluster spec topology. There's like a huge area there for machine pools. And then there's integration in the Kubernetes Bootstrap provider for machine pools. And in the machine controller, there's some handling for machine pools. So I think what definitely would not work is moving machine pools basically to an external project but still keeping like basically machine pool specific structs in our cluster class CRDs. So I think we'll just go downhill from there. So basically, we would have to rip it out of all of those integrations probably.
Can the glue be on the, how do I say, predictory annotation type level, which is like I know something exists that is external, but how the core controller can know about it without integrating the API and the code in the core?
I'm not sure. So it's not just small integration, right? We're talking about like deeply nested structs, maybe 20 fields or something in multiple of our CRDs that would have to move to annotations somehow. So it's in arrays as well. It's not just like a one, it's really a lot of stuff, basically. That's a short version of it. So
yeah.
I think the idea is fine. It's just not, I'm just not sure if it's doable.
Yeah, it feels like a really core feature in a way. So it's just that the maintainership is the problem. Just the feature feels really core.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also we don't. If we find people willing to do the split, they can also maintain where it is.
Yeah, I mean, basically moving somewhere else would force it, right? Basically decouple it from us. Yeah, but I think also, I think what we see in machine pools is basically just a slightly stronger version of what we see across the entire project, at least in core cluster API.
Yeah,
it's just that in core cluster API, we still have like, let's say 3 or 3.5 people more that are maintaining like everything else apart from machine pools, but we're running very, very, very low, and it's getting worse and worse and worse over the last 2 or 3 years. It's just in machine pool, the situation is the worst. It wasn't like we have a lot of maintainers in general for core cluster API or a lot of reviewers in general. We have a lot of contributions, but basically the handful of maintainers that we have that are actively reviewing like all sorts of stuff across the entire repository, we can barely catch up with anything here.
Yeah, because it almost feels like a machine pool controller could be a separate thing in theory, but I guess the binding is the problem. How do you bind it properly in the core?
Yeah. And going back to like, and basically it doesn't help that we basically are embedding parts of the machine pool stuff in other CRDs that are definitely part of core and have to stay there. That's where it gets really complicated to decouple it, or close to impossible.
Okay.
It's like basically, it's basically like trying to decouple the pod controller maybe from core Kubernetes or something, while pod spec is embedded in replica set and deployments and other stuff. I mean, that's a more extreme that example, but it's sort of similar to that.
Yeah, I think splitting out is even more complex than maintaining it. Then we have to figure it out an integration, etc., etc. So, in my opinion, it requires more work than actual maintaining it. And the problem is that, yeah, it is maintainer to do the work. Okay, so thank you everyone for the contribution to this discussion. If that's okay, let's move to the next point. Mike, up to you.
Yeah. So I guess like this is a little bit of good news and also some like, a request for the community is that so we've started to gather some more Carpenter cluster API users or like people who would like to contribute and collaborate with the project. And so we've been fixing it up and moving it forward. And I think we've got it up to cluster API like 1.9 at this point, and we're on Carpenter 1.4 or 1.5. So we're trying to keep the project up to date, make sure that it can be used with cluster API. But we're starting to get our first requests for things like a Helm chart and a public image. And one of the options we have available to us is to do like what we've done with the KubeMark CAPI provider. And like I could create a project in Quay.io or something, and we could host it there. But one of the users who was talking about this had requested, was wondering if there might be a process for us to host the Carpenter cluster API image in the registry k8s.io in a similar way that we host other cluster API images there. Yeah, Stefan, I see you got your hand up.
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
You just have to follow like the regular way that this is done.
Okay, cool. I can follow up
mostly,
offline then, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. It's mostly a SIG k8s infra thing. So basically, there's like a shared process across the entire Kubernetes community and how to do this.
Okay.
How to push images to a staging repository and then later promote it to production. But yeah, we can chat in Slack or somewhere.
All right.
How this is exactly done. I think there are no limitations that you have to qualify in some way as a Kubernetes 6 project. I think everyone is allowed to do it. It's just a matter of setting it up.
Okay. That sounds great. That is perfect. I guess I can go to the next topic unless anybody else has comments on that.
Please move on. Thank you.
Okay. So the next topic, I'm bringing this up because we've been doing some investigations at Red Hat, and I believe we've discovered a bug in the cluster autoscaler cluster API implementation that could affect any cluster autoscaler user from cluster API. And I guess it's a good thing you made me co-host. If I may share my screen for a minute, I'll go through a quick slide deck here that illustrates the problem. And then I'd like to kind of ask for some suggestions from the community for how we might fix it.
Okay, I stop sharing and you are co-host, so you should be able to share.
Okay.
So stop sharing.
Okay, hopefully you're seeing a slide now.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is a normal operating cluster. We've got a machine deployment with one replica. There's a machine set backing it and a machine, and that makes a node. What happens when the machine deployment starts to do an upgrade, though? For some period of time while the upgrade is happening, there are two machine sets, two machines, and two nodes. But the replica count still only says one. So what this leads to is a condition in the cluster autoscaler where if the old node is not removed within about 15 minutes, that's the default timer on the autoscaler for looking at something that's called an unneeded node. But if the old node is not removed, we can end up in a situation where the cluster autoscaler observes two nodes from the same node group, and it wants to reduce the size of that node group because it wants to delete the old node. But the machine deployment is already in the process of deleting the old node. It may just be taking a long time, or in some cases, the user may have finalizers or disruption budgets that are keeping the old node around and not allowing it to be removed yet. So what this means is that when the replica count is reduced, what we're seeing is that in these cases, the new node is removed. And so this is like when you're in the middle of an upgrade process and you've got workloads and the cluster autoscaler kind of running things, what can happen is if you keep the old nodes around too long, your workloads start to migrate to the new nodes, and then the cluster autoscaler actually deletes those nodes out from under you. I have been able to demonstrate this pretty much with the kubemark provider. I'm not going to do that now because it takes a little bit of time to set up and everything, but I think what we need to do is fix the cluster autoscaler to be smarter about noticing when a machine deployment is performing an upgrade so that the cluster autoscaler knows to ignore those new nodes until until the machine deployment or the user has removed them or whatever. Yeah, Stefan, please.
I have a question. So, is the problem? So I think I got most of the problem. I'm just wondering what the autoscaler is doing there. So is the autoscaler basically of the opinion that one node should be like the desired state, and then it's just a matter of it tries to do some sort of decrease by one too often instead of just trying to make sure that spec replicas is actually one like expected? So what I'm wondering, just look at it from different angles, basically. If the autoscaler thinks that this machine deployment should have one replica, why is it going to zero?
The autoscaler doesn't have an expectation about the replica size at that point, right? The autoscaler is not keeping, the core part of the autoscaler is not keeping track of the replica count at this point, right? Or the node group size as it knows it. What the core part of the cluster autoscaler is doing is it observes a node that has exceeded the unneeded time threshold, right? Maybe the node's been around for 20 minutes, maybe it's been around for an hour. And once that node has aged out, the scale down operation says, hey, we need to remove this node. What node group is it a part of? I'm going to mark that node for deletion. I'm going to put a taint on it. And then I'm going to tell the provider, I want you to delete this node. And what happens is, and this is a weakness in the logic of our cluster API implementation on cluster autoscaler, is that it sees the request to delete the node and it says, okay, I better mark that machine for deletion, and it marks the machine that's associated with the node. And then it reduces the replica count going to the machine deployment. And at this point, the machine deployment would go down to like 0, basically, right? And then it would delete, this gets worse if you had like 2 replicas, because the old node would still be there and everything. And I'm not sure what happens in the machine deployment logic at this point. I don't know that side of it. That's why I'm kind of bringing it here. But this is what we observe happens, right? Is that the new node, because you're kind of the old node, if you've made sure that it won't get removed by making it unschedulable or putting taints on it or squatting on it, basically, then the new node gets removed by the controller. And that's what so what we think, or what I think needs to happen, is that the cluster autoscaler, when it gets a request to scale down a machine deployment, it needs to look at the machines that are owned by that machine deployment. And if it sees that like either a machine has already been marked for deletion, or if this is why I'm bringing it here, because I know in the status of machine deployment, there's other replica fields we could look at. And so I think the cluster autoscaler needs to be able to look and say, okay, am I in the middle of an upgrade right now? And is the node that's being requested a node that has been upgraded or is being upgraded? And in those cases, don't delete that node. Like just ignore the request to reduce the replicas. The cluster autoscaler will continue to see the old node, but the user has done something to prevent the machine deployment from removing the old node at that point. And so we need to make it smarter.
But what the autoscaler already sees is basically, oh, this one specific node should go away, right? It's just not able to figure out that this node is already in deleting.
Right, because the core part of the autoscaler doesn't know about the machine. It doesn't know anything about the cluster. All it knows about is the node. And it just says, I want you to get rid of this node.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering is I'm wondering if on a very high level, the better fix would be not trying to understand how upgrades work and do the magic there, but make the autoscaler basically recognize that this node is already in deleting. So it just says like, okay, that's already in progress. I don't have to trigger another deletion here. Just because this can get quite complicated, right? It's not just this situation. I mean, I think the example you're hitting is like when machine deployment is configured with max search 1, because then it will have
Right.
like one more replica, right? But it can
Right,
also
right.
have max search 10 or 20 or 50 or 100.
Right.
Then there's also MRC remediations, which is it's doing like a -1 +1. So I'm not sure how this interacts with this problem, or maybe not.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if like the better fix could be if it's a possible fix, to just realize that this node is already deleting and then not just try to trigger another deletion because it's already in progress.
Well, right. Like what we need
If
to
that's
do though
possible.
is we need to see if the core part of the autoscaler, and I want to get to Fabrizio's question here because that might be the solution
Sure.
we're looking for. If the core autoscaler says delete this node, and then in the CAPI provider we see that the machine already has a delete machine annotation on it, we probably should not do anything. We shouldn't double reduce the replicas at that point. Because the only time we mark a machine for deleting in the autoscaler is once we've already decided to reduce the replicas. Then we mark the machine. We say delete the machine, we put the delete machine annotation on, and then we reduce the replica count. And so if we're not going to do that logic, then we should, if it's already got the thing, it means we or
Then
someone
it
else.
should be no op, right?
Right. But I want
that
to,
makes
yeah,
sense.
I want to ask Fabrizio about this, or maybe that's what Fabrizio wants to talk about. Please.
I have to look it up, but basically, we some time ago we introduced a taint that we apply to all the nodes when a machine deployment, when a rollout start. The idea is that we want to prevent when you start creating new and basically do drain, you want to prevent that pods get allocated on the old nodes because then you have to move them twice.
Right.
And so basically we started adding this taint on the old nodes. I don't remember exactly, I have to look it up, but this could be something that can help here.
Okay, I'll need to do some investigation on that as well. Anyways, I wanted people to be aware of this because it's something that users today might hit, especially if they're doing operations where they're like, keeping nodes around for a long time to do maintenance on them or something like that. Stefan, did you have a follow-up there?
Yeah, follow up to Fabrizio's point. So the delete machine annotation is something that the autoscaler is itself is setting when it tries to delete a machine the first time, right? I got this correct.
Right. When the autoscaler is being requested to delete a node and it's about to reduce the replicas, once it's decided that everything's in range and it's valid, it reduces the replicas. But before it does that, it adds the delete machine annotation.
Yeah, I don't want to think too much about how brittle this is, but independent of that, I think the better approach is to check for the annotation on the machine versus the taint that Fabrizio was suggesting, just because it should be a lot less racy. Because if you set the annotation on the machine, this is immediately there after you do it, basically. So the next time you look for it, it will be there. The taint will only be there after basically the machine set controller actually deleted the machine object, and then the machine controller was running into reconcile delete and I don't know which controller it is, but basically it takes a bit longer for taint to show up. So there should be still a race condition in there.
Okay.
If you would go for the taint instead of the annotation you're adding yourself.
Yeah.
Sorry. We have to look this up. The taint is applied even before the machine is deleted. So
we cannot use the taint at all. Sorry. So the taint is added to all machines of the old machine set. Right. So not just the one that you're deleting and not just the ones that are getting deleted in general. They're basically all machines that don't have the latest spec anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we need to look at the delete machine annotation.
Yeah. But I think the sequence diagram probably doesn't hurt, and then we can like a little bit double check, like does it all look good now?
Yeah, and I agree with you. This is brittle. This means that the cluster autoscaler has to understand internal details about the cluster API mechanism. So like in the future, this could break or whatever. But yeah, and I can't see a way to make this better because the root problem here is that the replica field on the machine deployment does not actually describe like the state of the world, right? There's more nodes than there are machines.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if you would have a list of machines on the machine deployment and you can say literally downscale and delete this specific one, then it would be better. But because you can't, you have to combine the downscale with deciding which one should go away, and that one is the other one. I mean so this only happens during machine deployment rollouts, right?
Yeah.
So I mean another fundamental question might be, if it's in general a good idea that we're trying to autoscale while a machine deployment is being rolled out, right? Because I mean, that implies some sort of
get into
downtime.
that.
No,
I
I'm
don't
just
even want,
saying,
that's
just
a user, that's like a user story, right? Like the user wants to do this, right? And we haven't said don't, like until the cluster API community says don't use the cluster autoscaler during an upgrade, like users are going to want to do this, right?
Yeah, I think I'm about to say that. No, basically the situation is the
Right.
following.
Let me get to Pavel's question here.
Yeah, let me just give you like the headline a little bit, and I'll do it quick.
Yeah.
So basically, if you have a machine deployment, right, and let's say you use like max search 10 or 20 on it because you want to do a really quick rollout, right? And let's say you have 100 machines and you do a max search 20 and you do a rollout. So at some point you will have 120. If you have 120 machines and autoscaler looks at it and says, oh, I don't need that much, the autoscaler will just go crazy while we try to do our rollout.
Right.
The same the other way around, basically, when we have max search 0 and max unavailable 20, which means basically we go from 100 down to 80 during a rollout, it will just try to scale up while we're trying to roll out.
Right.
So I think, I'm not sure if this, probably we just shouldn't do anything with the autoscaler as long as we're rolling out, to be honest.
Right. I agree with you that people, like we should advise people not to use the autoscaler during these upgrades, but we probably could make the autoscaler a little smarter to not, affect things during that process.
Yeah. The problem is just it's super brittle that basically you say like, hey, before a rollout is happening, please disable the autoscaler and enable it again afterwards, right? It would be nice if there's like, I mean, I have no idea about autoscaler, but it would be nice if basically either this is just the behavior of the autoscaler, or if there's a flag to say like, hey, please don't mess with machine deployments while they're being rolled out.
Right. That we could develop that if we wanted to, but that's something new we'd have to do. Anyways, I know this is going on for a long time. Anyways, Pavel, what was your question?
So question is, would that make sense in the implementation to maybe navigate or follow something like metrics data, which would basically something simple. Certainly there can be endpoints serving metrics, and there can be data gauge, Prometheus related, open telemetry related, whatever. And basically that could go in pair with some finalizer. And maybe if something is in the works, busy basically, then do not delete or deprovision that machine yet, right? I mean, because you would know this because of the flowing data that you would know based on a gauge or a type of metrics. So I'm just wondering if that kind of implementation would be suitable for the way the project goes.
Yeah, I think the problem there is that currently the cluster autoscaler doesn't have any awareness of metrics coming from other components in the system, and it doesn't make decisions based on the metrics, right? So I think it'd be easier for us to like fix the autoscaler to just not affect machines that are in deleting state than to try and process the metrics to look for, spikes in events or something like that would say, okay, this means that it's in a deleting state or something. I just think there'd be a lot of work to do to plumb that together.
And if I may chime in, if we add the matrix into the picture, things will become more complex and more risky. So I think and this is sort of strange, copy that publish a matrix instead of doing something with on CRD to talk with the autoscaler. Mike, my take is, since it looks like that probably, so yes, you have the issue, and Nia in chat is asking, maybe that instead of having the slide, we can have a sequence diagram that help to understand where the problem is. And discussing with Stefan, a couple of other cases come up. What if you start a Google Doc where from one side, we start by listing problem, and then we figure it out. As soon as we have clear what the problem are, we figure it out how to address them.
Yeah,
so it looks like we are starting a working group, but yeah, let's see how this goes.
I'll just let you all know right now, like, I have a customer who is experiencing this currently. I'm working on a fix for it right now. So if I can fix it in the autoscaler, I'm going to demonstrate my fix for everyone, right? I will take the time to create a document and put a sequence diagram to describe what's going on. And I'm going to open an issue on the cluster autoscaler. But like this has some very high priority inside of Red Hat right now. So like I'm going to be looking at a solution for it like this week and next week and whatnot. So like I'll try to bring my results back here and show what I can. But right now, what I'm working on, I'm looking at this as an autoscaler user. I see a behavior that's happening in Cluster API. I don't think it's a bug in Cluster API. I think it's a bug in the autoscaler. And so I'm trying to make the autoscaler more resilient so that it works in situations.
Okay, fair. Thank you. We appreciate you sharing. As soon as you get out from the emergency mode, maybe let's take a look at the bigger picture. So we address what Stefan was discussing. Pavel and then Stefan.
There's this thing in AWS called auto-scaling groups, and I remember that it was quite easy to replace one node with the other one by navigating with all the lifecycle that was basically defined or just by defining proper profile. But that's separate abstraction and very separate to very specific provider, of course. So that's just an idea, and maybe to introduce something like this. And the other question is, have we ever autoscale control planes? I mean, control machines that contain control planes. I'm asking to I don't know, daemon sets, for example, or certs, things like this.
I mean, users are free to create a machine deployment that covers their control plane and then attach an autoscaler to it. I don't advise that, but people could do that if they wanted to. Like there's these tools don't restrict you from doing that. I know. Autoscaling groups, I've looked at AWS's implementation. AWS suffer from this problem because their data model is different inside the autoscaling group. So they don't have the same replica truthfulness issue that Cluster Autoscaler does. So this is like a bug in the Cluster API implementation inside the Autoscaler, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, Stefan.
Yeah, just want to say thanks for reporting it, working on it, and definitely makes sense to do like a technical fix first to fix the current problem, and then we can see where we end up like midterm for like the problem that I mentioned. So far so good. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate all the discussion here. I know it's complicated. I'll make some more data for next week and I'll share it then. Thank you.
Okay.
One last point. By the way, sorry, one last point. We can also see if we can, just to like some sort of breakout session, talk about it via Zoom, half an hour or something. Just might have to deep dive a little bit into some autoscaler implementation details, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I'm gonna try and like capture a video of me making this happen with the KubeMark provider, and if I do, I'll share that with everybody, and hopefully that'll be more illustrative.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's keep moving. We have 15 minutes and 2 other topic in agenda. So Alex, in place upgrade.
Hey folks, I started a thread in the Slack channel. I did a small draft implementation just to uncover some issues, and I have like a long list of things that didn't work well, or I have questions. So what I would like to ask is, what are the next steps? Like, should we organize a walkthrough, like some dedicated call, and maybe have some planning about the work that has to be done, and generally about in place updates implementation?
Is there someone who want to answer?
I mean, I can answer, but I'm not sure if you want to give like probably the more complete answer.
Please go on, then I will chime in.
Already. So I think basically speaking for myself and partially for Fabrizio, I guess, we are now at a point where we are still wrapping up the current release and would now start looking into in place, which means looking at what you shared And then probably should do exactly what you were saying, like do some sort of breakout session, look at your prototype essentially, look at like all the problems, or let's say all the challenges we have across various components, what we have to solve, try to break it down, the entire problem space into sub-problems, and then split up the work or something. So I think, yeah, something like this makes sense. I should get around to start looking at it like Friday or Monday, I hope. But I'm also still doing stuff like releasing controller runtime, making sure that core copy is basically set up for the next release cycle and that sort of stuff. Should go smoothly, hopefully, but who knows?
Thank you, Stefan. Yeah, more or less the same. We have to finish up the release. We have to actually start the new release cycle, so do all the stuff that we do at the beginning of the release. I also have a point later that we have to do related to this. But yeah, for this cycle, what I have in pipeline, what I would like to see finished is for sure. So the things that I'm going to invest most of my time and do active work is chainnet upgrade and in place. So definitely we should discuss, try a way to work together and help you to address what is pending from your prototype and figure it out what is missing. I just need some time to refresh myself, reread the proposal because it's passed a few months, and look into your prototype. But yeah, hopefully we will get this started as soon as possible. Looks like taking a step back, well, we know that the proposal was sort of high level, and it was intentionally because we want to give the big picture and the problem in complex. So we know that we need some implementation detail to be figured out. Your work in the prototype probably already scratched some of these angles. I don't know if we have to set up some breakout session. Probably yes. But yeah, let me catch up with your work and the proposal, get some stuff out of the table, and then we figure it out. We will try to work together to make this happen by this release.
Okay. So should we come back to the topic in maybe 2-3 weeks? Is it fine?
I think that maybe sometime next week I will start pinging you to set up some meeting to ask you question about your prototype, stuff like that. So we will start going possibly before 2 or 3 weeks. Also, yeah. Also because this release cycle is shorter than the next one, so we have to. Then the last one, so we have to. Yeah, we don't have much room, Stefan.
Yeah, just adding to that, basically we have roughly, I mean, it's fun to say 1 week after release, but we have three months until code freeze. We would really like to make it happen and help there. So I think from now forward, we have to go with quick iteration cycles, essentially. I mean, whatever time you have and other people have, and we just do the best, of course, but I think you have to go comparatively quickly, and if you I mean, I know it's at the moment it's just mostly like Fabrice and me trying to catch up. But if you would take like 2 or 3 weeks just to catch up, that would be way too slow simply for the 3 months that we have. So yeah, I think next week is good.
Okay, if that's okay, I know this is not the definite answer, but I think it is the best one that we can go. So we will try to basically pair with you and make this happen as soon as possible. But if that's okay for everyone, I will move to the next point because yeah, Pavel, please.
Just one question. In case someone had some kind of a proof of concept by working with something like Nix or Nix OS regarding updates, I'm not sure how would that relate, but I think there might be some correlation or some similarity.
To be honest, it seems.
I'm not sure. Just asking. I'm not sure.
Yeah. To be honest, what happened on the machine, on the OS level, seems out of scope of this proposal, even if it is related. And the problem is already complex enough. And I will try to, basically what we are trying to do is to get the foundation into the project. So then fancy stuff can happen on the OS level. And
yeah, understood.
Can I finish? Sorry.
Of course.
Considering the shortness of the release and considering what I'm bringing up in the next point, I will try to keep this as scoped as possible. But yeah, if you have idea, prototype, happy to discuss in this meeting. I think that in terms of intake of new payload for the next release, we have to be cautious.
So maybe one more thing. There are releases there that basically do that, and they're for development officially.
What do you mean?
I mean, channels, you select the channel and you have proper development from, I don't know, I think Fedora, right? Fedora was always meant to be development station, and now it's Fedora OS, so it's container Linux. Doesn't it already offer something similar, or are we talking about different implementation that would be more similar to maybe Flatcar, or yeah, because those mechanisms are a little bit different.
I think there is a misunderstanding. So whatever happened at OS level is out of scope of what we are discussing here. It could be Flatcar, Ubuntu, Nix, Windows. It is out of scope of this proposal.
Yeah. I'm just saying that there are tools and toolings that are embedded for a long time, always were in some distributions. I mean, they change names, things happen. But in flight updates, channels without rebooting the system, that's the topic, right?
This is not what the proposal is talking about.
Okay, so I will read it through then. Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the Fedora and things like that are using container operating systems now, or core OS-based operating systems, that we're talking at a level higher than the operating system. This is at like the cloud init or the ignition level, because we're talking about upgrading a machine that's in place, right? So yeah, I would say, Pablo, go back and review the original request, and it's happening at a higher level than you're talking about.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
Okay, so if you are done with this topic, we have 5 minutes. I want to bring up the next one. So first of all, Matt, and I thank you again, Matt, for stepping up for the second cycle as a release manager. And huge kudos. Matt is looking to fill up the next release team. So we're still looking for volunteer for a few key roles for the release team. Just to bring up to everyone. So if someone already volunteered and want to step up, please reach out to Matt. The handbook for those roles is super well curated. The effort is usually limited. And also this release cycle not only shorter than usual, but we do not plan to do stuff like alpha or extra release like in the last cycle. Matt, do you want to add something? Otherwise, I will finish up with the last 2 notes.
Yeah, just thank you for pointing that out. I think we're in pretty good shape. We have a lot of volunteers. It'd be great if somebody wants to step up and take over as overall release lead, and if someone wants to be the CI lead. But otherwise, I think we're in pretty good shape, and maybe one of the people we've already identified is willing to step up. So, but thanks,
okay,
yeah.
that's great. So we are nearly at the last mile of this of setting up the next release team. But I just so today we discussed a lot of stuff and a lot of work for the next release. But I want to point out that if we don't have a release team, all of these will be jeopardized because we have a small set of core maintainer. And if core maintainer have to step in and take care of this stuff, is less bandwidth that we can add to review PR from community. So it is really important to have a release team, and if someone is willing to step up for this key role, let me know. If you need help in making the case with your manager and explaining why this is important for a Cluster API project and for every consumer of Cluster API, let me know. I'm happy to do this as well. Okay, we are nearly at the top of hour. I thank you everyone for the really interesting discussion today. If there are no last minute topics, I don't see provider upgrade, feature group upgrade. I wish everyone a great rest of the week. See you next time.
Thanks, Fabrizio.
Thank you. Bye-bye.